VigilanteWilliamson here with a very simple question, and that is, how good are the New Orleans Saints? My TLDR, not that good. Between 4 and 6 wins for 2025 is my TLDR prediction. So let's get into it. To tell this story, we have to go back to a land before time, the pre-pandemic era of 2018-2019. I believe it was the 2018 season, 2019 NFC Championship game, the infamous no call that should have been, that would have more than likely sent the Saints to the Super Bowl, which would have been their second Super Bowl. And maybe they win it, maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't know if they beat the Patriots that year, but they definitely should have went. And I feel like the franchise has been stuck in that moment and they can't get out of it. Similar to another franchise in their division, the 28-3 Falcons. What was it, 2016? I think 2016. And they're stuck in that moment. They can't get out of it. So this team is trying to redeem that. And it took the route similar to a Pittsburgh, or at least attempted to, where they constantly tried to keep the team afloat. Hey, the Bucs were able to do it. The Bucs were able to transition from the Tom Brady era into the Baker Mayfield era. But New Orleans hasn't been as lucky. And they have a lot of players who are long on the tooth. A lot of players from that 2019 team that maybe they could have, if they executed a proper rebuild, maybe they could have got rid of those players for assets. I said in the previous video that I don't believe tanking necessarily works in the NFL because you have to draft. You have to draft second and third round players no matter what. And a lot of people are still like stupid. So they still think that you need to tank per se in order to execute a rebuild, and that's not correct. But what you do need to do is you do need to identify valuable assets and let them go in order to get more draft picks, and then you have to draft well. That's how you execute a rebuild. Am I saying that because it's the Lions' way of rebuilding? Yes and no. I'm also saying it because it's the smart way of rebuilding. We've seen a lot of teams try this. If you can pull off some trades, if you can get rid of some assets, get some extra picks, use those extra picks to help rebuild and help get a good team. The reason I say you don't necessarily need to tank because of players like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. Lamar almost was a second-round pick, into the first round. If you can identify talent, they don't have to be top 10 picks. And how many top 10 picks are bust? You know what I mean? So this idea that you need to draft a top 10 pick in order to get your quarterback is a myth. And I say all that to say, have New Orleans gotten their quarterback? They drafted Tyler Shugg, and hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. He was a second-round pick. I'm not sure about him. He has the infamous highlight at the combine where he's looking, kind of crazy. He had a crazy play. They drafted Spencer Rattler in the 5th round the year previous, and potentially next year, depending on how this year goes, they're looking to potentially draft another quarterback. So what they need to do is identify their quarterback. I don't know how they're going to do it. This is why I say don't quite fret this year, because this is your year to just take that rebuild, take that lost year. You don't have to be down long, but this team definitely needs to rebuild. It sucks that you didn't get rid of some of the assets, like maybe an Alvin Kamara, even though he's still pretty good, or a Cam Johnson, or a Tyrann Mathieu. It sucks that you didn't identify these guys 3, 4, 5 years ago to kind of get rid of, make into mid to high round draft picks if you can when they have value, and then use those picks to rebuild. That's what you should have done. They're not going to be granted that chance, but they are going to at least get a high first round pick more than likely. And this year is just establish a culture for Kellen Moore, who's a first year head coach. Try to figure out if your quarterback is on your team between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shugg. They may be, they may not. And then going to next year, which a lot of people have next year as a high draft pick or a high quarterback heavy draft or good quarterback heavy draft. We will see if that's the case. I don't always trust a lot of the experts when it comes to a lot of this, though. As time goes on, in the NFL with the NIL in college, making that basically a pro league, it is inevitable that the league will have less buzz, at least you would think, because a lot of the things that they weren't exposed to, meaning the players weren't exposed to as college and quote-unquote amateur athletes, they will be exposed to before they get to the pro. So you get to see, okay, how much work ethic do you have? You have $1 million in the bank. You have all these different distractions. That question gets answered in college now. So long term, you'll get better value on picks. But we're still in that transition, and as a result, the draft is unsure. And that's the truth. And I know I'm talking about everything but this football team in this video, but it's just the fact is they're not going to be that good. They weren't that good last year. We're talking about the 24th ranked offense as far as scoring, 19th ranked defense as far as scoring, 30th as far as yards, as far as defense. This team is long in the tooth with a lot of great veterans. Alvin Kamara did still have a pretty good year. Had 900 rushing yards, almost led the team in passing yards, and 543 yards passing, or receiving, I should say. You did have a lot of injuries, right? So, Chris Olave was injured. Valdez Scantling, I don't think he's still there. He is not. He's with the Seahawks now, it looks like. So, you had receivers, and Olave, I think there's something there with Olave. I think he can be a good receiver. You have Rashid Shaheed. Listen, maybe there's more with these receivers than we see. Of course, Taysom Hill was a kind of beloved gadget player, but you didn't really have that much talent on offense. You really wish you could really just trade as many assets and get as many picks as possible, but you don't really have too many assets that people want. Now, you were helped out in many ways by Derek Carr retiring. That gives you clear books. That gives you the chance to rebuild. But just outside of just going through the growing pains of this season and being a first-year head coach for Kellen Moore, establishing his culture, I don't see what there is to do. I just don't see the talent on this team. I just don't. Now, they did draft players, you know what I'm saying, as every team does. I mentioned Tyler Shugg. They also drafted Calvin Banks Jr. in the first round, old tackle, and then they drafted D tackle Vernon Broughton from Texas. They drafted a safety, Jonas Sanker, in the third. So hopefully some of these players they're drafting, a lot of them defensive. Danny Stutzman, Quincy Riley in the fourth. So they put a lot of their draft towards defense, which is good because that's what this team was really known for in recent years. I mean, yeah, back in the day, Drew Brees lighting it up, but in recent years, it's been a good defense. They have not had that in the recentest of years, and they're trying to establish that, and hopefully they can. Hopefully they can put together a much more solid defense with some of these young pieces and kind of rebuild what they once had when they had, Cam Jordan at the peak of his powers, some of those other players on that team. So I don't know what to do for this team. I will say this. Give the coach Kellen Moore time. He's going to need at least 4 years. And I know not everybody wants to hear that in this rush, win now league, but I just don't see this team being that good this year. So they have to just draft better. They have to take advantage of whatever little advantage there is of being a top picking team. Again, if you don't pick in the second round, third round, fourth round, well, doesn't matter what your draft pick is. They got to draft well. Mickey Loomis, who's been the GM, maybe deserves some of the blame for them trying to hold on as long as they could. I mean, you do got to remember this franchise before Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton and Drew Brees got there was one of the most maligned franchises in the league. So for years, under Drew Brees and Sean Payton's tenure, to have all that success and Loomis was the GM, I get not wanting to just hit that reset button and trade away some of those players, but you put yourself in a really tough position. They're also in a tough position cap-wise. So it's like you can't really rebuild by using these players as draft picks. Can't really rebuild using free agencies. It's like, what do you do? You almost do have to lose a couple years and do a NBA rebuild, which again, I don't think works as well for the NFL. What I mean by NBA rebuild is infamously to trust the process, but it's because it's a different league. First round picks are even more volatile in the NBA, and you have less picks, so you need as many first round picks to try to even get a chance. And that's another thing, you really do need a top 10 pick to work out in the NBA, where in the NFL you can have a third rounder be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think it was a fourth rounder, or you can have a sixth rounder turn to Tom Brady, an undrafted free agent turn to Tony Romo or James Harrison. You know what I mean? It's about evaluating talent and finding talent wherever they may find them. Where the NBA, you kind of need a bunch of early picks, and you need a bunch of them year after year. You're probably going to fuck up a bunch of them. It's just such a crapshoot. And you're going to have to do that, looks like, for the next foreseeable future. So hopefully you give Kellen Moore the time to do that. You give him the time to rebuild. And, you know, this year he gets a chance to see 2 quarterbacks. If neither one of them, between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shugg, is good enough. Ironically, Shugg, being a rookie, he's actually older than Spencer Rattler, who rookie year was last year, because he stayed in college so long because of his injury. So how much of a risk is he? And should you have maybe traded and got Shedeur or drafted Shedeur instead? I don't know. I mean, a lot of people want Shedeur there. I've heard rumors of even them potentially wanting to trade for Shedeur. I don't know how good Shedeur Sanders is. I know there's still a lot of hype, a lot of fan hype. You know, sold a bunch of jerseys. Maybe he would have been better in the situation. I don't know. But I know one thing. You got to figure out who your quarterback is or isn't. You got to at least know, okay, neither one of these guys are the guy. Spencer Rattler did not get the best hand dealt to him. And honestly, neither will Tyler Shugg. There's still not a lot of good receivers on this team. You do have Alvin Kamara, but that's it. That's the only real player that you have. And like I said, it's an argument that you trade him for whatever you can get and try to do more later. I mean, you're not going to be good this year. I said 4 to 6 wins. It could be worse. Let's look at the schedule. I've ranted long enough. I don't think this team is good. I hope they give Kellen Moore enough time to rebuild. Let's see what this schedule and see what they can do. You start off with the Cardinals, a team that I think is going to be good. I think they'll be better than the Saints. Then you have the 49ers, a team that I think will be mid. Well, actually, I think the Cardinals will be mid too, to be honest, but maybe a little bit better. But still think that team is better than the Saints. Seahawks, so it looks like you're matched with the NFC West. Still think this team is better than the Saints. The Bills, you know they're going to be better than the Saints. Then you got the Giants. You should be as good as the Giants, but honestly, the Giants have more of an identity. I like the rookie quarterback they drafted, Jackson Dart, a lot better than Tyler Shugg, and they have a bona fide starter ahead of him in Russell Wilson. Plus, that defense, which wasn't that terrible, just got that was a solid defense. I gotta check their numbers, but they had a solid defense and just got one of the best defensive players in the past couple years in Abdul Carter. So that Giants team for the Saints is not an easy win. Then the Patriots, who I think is going to be improved. The Bears, who I think is going to be improved. The Bucks, obviously, in the division. Then you got the Rams going off that NFC West. The Panthers, who I think are going to be better than the Saints. Falcons, I think are going to be better than the Saints. Dolphins, I think are going to be better than the Saints. Honestly, I think everybody on their schedule, with maybe the exception. Well, let's go to the rest. Again, they got the Bucks again, week 14, week 15, Panthers, and then the Jets and the Titans. Those are like the only teams that may be worse than the Saints. And honestly, I think at least the Titans will be better. The Jets may be worse. And then after all that, after the Titans, you end with the Falcons. So your schedule, you have both New York teams. I don't know. I really feel like everybody on this schedule is better than the Saints. Maybe the Jets. Like this schedule. So this schedule for another team would be pretty easy. you can argue. I wish the Lions had a schedule like this. No, actually, I kind of like having a tough schedule to prepare for the playoffs, to be honest. But as far as if you were just a win mark and you weren't worried about, playoff preparation and you just want to get as much wins, this schedule is not that tough. There are a bunch of mid teams, similar to what I said with the Falcons, where there's a lot of teams that you think are going to be better than maybe their record was last year. And it's, similarly because they, a lot of these divisions are matched up by each other. That's the thing, these divisional schedules, that's why the division has to have so much weight, because you match teams up by the division. The NFC West is matched up with the AFC South. The AFC South is also matched up, it looks like, with the NFC East. Or AFC East, I should say, because they're playing the Dolphins, Jets, the Bills, the Patriots. Those are all AFC East teams. And then they're also playing all the NFC West teams, the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams. So this schedule for a middle of the pack or lesser team is a tougher schedule. For a better team, like if this was the Bills schedule, who was actually on it, ironically enough, or, the Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs, one of those type of teams, they would look at this schedule as a pretty easy schedule. But for the Saints, they'll be lucky to get 4 wins. I want them to prove me wrong. I mean, ironically enough, when Drew Brees was still with the Chargers, the San Diego Superchargers back in the day, their emergence was kind of out of nowhere. Drew Brees was kind of a maligned quarterback who people at the time didn't think was going to be that great. Maybe he's not the guy. He was a second-round pick. And everything just clicked. I mean, they did have LT, but going into that year, they were kind of unknown and a team that you didn't think was going to be that good, and everything clicked into place, and they had a pretty good year. So maybe the Saints could be one of those type of teams, but I just don't see it. I don't see Tyler Shutt being that good. I don't think he was the right pick. I think they had other options. If maybe they should have went after, if not Shador or Jackson Dart, something else. They should have did something else for a quarterback. I just don't believe it should. And yes, I am going off of that highlight. I'm also going after the fact that he's an older rookie and he's had so many injuries. I just don't think it with him. Spencer Rattler didn't look that great last year, but it was just his first year. Maybe his second year he gets a lot better. Maybe Alvin Kamara has such a breakout year that it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. But I don't see that. I see a bad team. I said between 4 and 6 wins. They could do worse. But whatever they do, even if they only win 2 games this year, I hope they give Kellen Moore another chance. It wouldn't shock me if he is one and done, though, because this team is just not going to be good. And there's really not much you can do about it. They don't have the assets to trade to get the picks. They didn't, they drafted okay. We'll see how well those players match. If those players spark the defense, Alvin Kamara has a great year. Maybe they get 6 or 7 wins, but I just don't see that. I said 4 to 6. I mean, they could easily win 2 or 3 games. This is just not a lot of talent on this team. And it's a shame. It's a shame what happened in 2019. It's a shame this team hasn't been able to rebuild properly. It's a shame the team didn't just, trade away some of his assets, have a couple years of being bad, maybe, or maybe sometimes just 1 year of doing not so well. You draft right, and then, 1 or 2 rookie classes, you're right back in it. And I know I'm using, again, the Lions rebuild, but it's worked for other teams. Infamously, generations ago, Dallas had that big trade. But sometimes, even without massive trades, just you draft the right players, and all of a sudden, look at the Eagles. You draft a bunch of the right players, keep them together, and then you got a good squad. You know what I mean? So the Saints weren't able to do that. We'll see what they do this year. A 20-minute video about a team that's not that good. I apologize, guys. Hopefully I can edit some of this stuff out. But in any event, if you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, please do that. Even if you do none of these things. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Good night. God bless. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.